to Sacredish, my friend. Here we are again.
Here we are again, ready to talk about something that wasn't our original topic, but sometimes an idea just jumps the line.
Jumps the line, indeed.
Yeah.
It is the topic of the moment. So do you want to launch us into it, since I think it maybe, it touches us both right now, but maybe you in a positive way?
Well, and we're going to talk about that, expressing joy. So yeah, it actually came from a comment that you made to me, I don't know, a few weeks ago, maybe, about the difference between seeking happiness and expressing joy. And that just stuck in my brain, and I thought a lot about it. And I've made, some recent kind of shifts in my professional life and life overall. And that was part of my lens that I looked at everything through. It was, how much joy do I have in my life? And what is the difference between those two things? And so I had spent so much time thinking about it. It seemed that we should sit down and talk.
Yeah.
And those other topics are still going to be there for another day. But when you're feeling something and living something and it's really resonating with you, it's, front and center in your brain.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I don't know, how much you want to share or how deep you want to go into your situation, but did you have like an epiphany where you were like, you know what, I'm going to make a conscious choice towards joy, and therefore I'm doing X?
Well, I think that I had started to think a lot about the idea of joy, something that's generated within me, that's enduring, that can be expressed in small moments, that I'm taking the time to appreciate those, et cetera. So I think I'd been on that path for a while. But then this idea of seeking happiness, the reason that resonated with me so much was I feel like for many years I've traded my own mental health and physical health for money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can we get an amen? Like,
yes. Yeah.
How many of us can relate to that when you
Yeah.
stop and look at what you're giving up? Yeah.
Yes. So, I sat down, and to be clear, I'm in a great position, and so I'm grateful for that. But also, sometimes choices require sacrifice. And so I have been unwilling to sacrifice the money up until now to gain some of the other benefits. And I had a long talk with myself about that.
Were you sassy? Did you talk
I
back?
was a tough love session with myself for sure. I decided no time like the present. Time is ticking by. Good way to say it. And so, I think it's easy right now to give into fear because the world seems so uncertain. And there's so much flux. And if you're reading headlines or on social media, it can definitely be draining. But no time like the present. In a way, I think, and we'll talk more about it, but I think finding joy, expressing joy, even more crucial in tough times. So anyway, all of that inspired a bigger change, where happiness, how do I define that? Is it safety? And is safety a direct correlation to how much money I have? So, a lot of issues came up as I thought through that. Like, what does happiness look like?
Yeah. It's the eternal question. That, and is there life after death? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
We know taxes are real. But maybe it's a good place to start is, what's the difference between happiness and joy? And I think I spent probably a large portion of my life not understanding the difference, and not appreciating the difference, or not even, maybe even needing the difference. I think it was like, I think it was Ken Wilber who mapped out sort of the arc of your life. And it's, the first half is all about ego. And then the second half is all about soul, right? And dharma and things like that. And not even realizing there was something that I was missing when I was younger. So, certainly not ahead of the curve on this. But the way I think of it now is, happiness is very external, right? It's natural. It's things that are happening. It's situational. It's getting my way, or it's, things like that. Whereas joy, I almost think of it as supernatural. It's that internal voice. And it is almost like that compass or that core that if you can abide in that joy, then what happens on the exterior, I won't say doesn't matter, because of course it matters, but it matters way less.
Mm-hmm.
In meditation, and meditation has really been the portal to a lot of joy and happiness and peace for me. You learn to hold your center and hold on to that peace, and it quickly blossoms into joy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, exactly. I think, joy is also something that is frequently shared. So, how are you in spaces of community where you can share joy, and you can find joy in the accomplishment of others and
Yeah.
others, success or happiness or accomplishment or just communion, right? So
Yeah.
there are a lot of there are a lot of facets to joy for sure. But yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the phrasing you used was seeking happiness versus expressing joy really helped me understand for the first time the distinction, and then the fact that, one is more externally driven for sure. And I did a little bit of research because, I love research. I'm always like, what do the neurologists say? What do the people say about all of this good stuff?
Yeah.
And, our brains express happiness and joy differently.
Yeah.
So,
Lights up different parts of our brains for sure. But can I just say real
yeah,
fast that I did not make up that phrase.
yes,
I dropped into a meditation class in India on Zoom, right? And the guru, this was something he said. And I'm my own guru, so I don't really have gurus, but that's what they call them. So anyway,
yes,
I just have to give credit to whomever that was. It was not me.
yes, fair enough. Well, and, we are all, collecting and sifting through the uh, wisdom of others and creating our own,
Yeah.
special
It's like
customized version of everything we hear and read. But yes, for sure. I totally get that. Um, yeah. So, happiness is very dopamine driven, and it can be very fleeting, in terms of how we experience it neurologically. It's, like, and some of the examples, as I did my research, were a little ego driven, like you win an award or you're recognized, or, or like maybe it's a longer term accomplishment. I've always wanted to pay off my house and I did it. And there's this sense of happiness or accomplishment, but it's a dopamine hit. And it can even be, of course, we all know about our phones are the best example of how dopamine hits can become almost like an addiction, right?
Yeah.
Because you become dependent on them. But joy, actually, serotonin, oxytocin, it helps us with emotional regulation. It's a much more complex chemical reaction in our brain, and it's much more sustaining. And so, I thought that was interesting as well, because I don't think I've ever really thought about the difference between these two things until recently, right?
Yeah.
And so how, not only how it comes about external versus internal, but how we experience it, what it does for us are just, those are distinctly different things.
Yeah, I was thinking when you talked, resonating in the body, there's this great book, The Body Keeps Score. A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
read it maybe several years ago, but your body, your brain doesn't know the difference between fantasy and reality. When you're dreaming, your body doesn't know. Your neurons fire, your heart rate increases if you're being chased in a dream, or you've had those moments where you wake up and you're just like, oh. And muscle memory is really, really important. And and this again is something I've learned in meditation, when you train your body in a certain way and you get it to not look for the dopamine hit, not right. And it gets builds neural pathways. And, when we say abide in joy, that is a biological response. That is a reality physically, not just emotionally and mentally, to your point, right? Like just being in a state, you be around some of these people and they're just naturally calm. Nothing freaks them out. They never raise their voice. Like, I don't know how that's possible, but the same is once you get in a habit of joy, it's easier to stay in joy.
Yes, agreed. And how do you build that? Like, what are the building blocks for it? What does your practice look like? What are the, kind of pieces of the puzzle that help you attain that? So it's whether it's meditation, gratitude journaling, breathing techniques, taking the time to prepare a meal mindfully and consume it mindfully, um, share in laughter, seek opportunities to share in laughter, be
Yeah.
around, yeah.
For me, and so TMI, here we go. I love cemeteries. Okay, ever since I was a little kid, I used to go photograph cemeteries in college. I'd go to these small towns, outside of Austin, and I had family in Kerrville, and so many great. Okay, and everyone's like, "That's morbid. What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, I never feel more alive than I do when I'm walking through a cemetery, and there is something about just being aware that this is all going to end that actually calls the joy out of me. It reminds me that so much of this is BS, right? Like, why am I getting worried about the car I drive or whatever? Like, at some point, and now as I've gotten older and I've had friends who've lost their parents or
Mhm.
friends who have passed away or tragedies that you hear about, on the news, it's like, wait a minute. It just really, for me, is a harsh reminder. I don't know how many days I have left. Do I want to spend them trying to live up to other people's standards and hit the marks of joy, of happiness? Does that really fulfill me? Or do I really find what I'm looking for when I just focus on expressing my joy? And for me, a big part of that is authenticity, authentic joy. And there was an author several years ago, Peter Zukov, right? He wrote the Seed of Power books and all this kind of stuff. And he talked about, when you align your purpose, your heart, with your personality, he called it, that's authentic power. And that's where real joy is. And I find that to be so true. I'm the happiest. I have the most joy to give when I'm doing the things that I love, when I'm in my authentic place, when I push myself, whether it's work or with people I don't really connect with, or if I'm doing too much, my joy just disappears. And I'm like, I don't like that Susan. Where did joyful Susan go?
I will say, I've already had a coworker comment on how joyful I seem since I quit my job. So,
Right.
yes. Although I will say, can I just say that I think your example is really good because it points to the fact that it, much like we're all unique, how we find joy is a unique experience, and
Yeah.
what you just described would fill me with anxiety. I would be like, man, this cemetery is depressing. And
That's awesome.
time is ticking by. Oh my God, what am I doing? Like, but
Well,
that's what it's, we all, everyone has their own path to this for sure.
yeah,
Yes.
100%. Like, we were joking. I was like, can we start a horse rescue farm / spiritual retreat / coffee bar? And you're like, yes, except for the horses. And I'm like, but the poop smells, the horse poop smells so good. And you're like, yuck. So to your point, horses are that for me. Discussing spirituality is that for me. Doing something for somebody else, and
Mm,
that they couldn't do for themselves is just, you know what I mean? Like helping, so just off the chart buckets of joy. But I know that's not for everybody.
right.
And, I think it's way easier said than done. But if everyone could find out what brought them joy and just spend some time in that space, can you imagine how the world would transform?
Yeah. Yeah, it would be unreal. The world would be a much more joyful place for sure. Well, and I think too, if you don't know what brings you joy, because sometimes we can become so divorced from that. I was talking to a friend yesterday about how I feel like I spent the entire decade of my 30s boomeranging between caffeine and alcohol consumption. and just busy all the time, like just wall to wall busy. And so if you're in the middle of a season like that, it can be really hard to,
Yeah.
you're kind of like, I don't even know what brings me joy right now. Could I even identify it? But if it's on your radar, when it pops up, you start to recognize it. And then you say, oh, wow, for me, hands down, number one, being around people I enjoy and having good conversation and laughing is my preferred method. I have a lot of, solitary pursuits. I can make a meal by myself and sit and enjoy it. Meditation, long walks. There are a lot of solitary individual versions of that, but I always want to share it. That's always my first preference. So,
Yeah.
we're each wired differently. And so it's going to show up in different ways for all of us.
Yeah. And I think, the joy is a fruit of the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that joy is contagious and versus happiness is selfish. It's kind of like, what am I getting? What am I getting? And yes, you can be a good person and happy for other people, but it's not the same because joy you want to give away. Joy,
Mm-hmm.
it just rolls off of you. And I do think it's contagious. As you said, in community, and being with others and really sharing it. And I find that I gravitate to people who just naturally have that sense of joy. I mean, I guess no one gravitates to someone who's anxious and unhappy, but the gravitational pull of somebody who sits in that space, pretty powerful.
Yeah, I will say I think there are people who gravitate towards, they say misery loves company for a reason. I do think that there are some negative Nellies that love to
I
congregate
see him
together.
coming and I'm like, no, get
Yeah,
away, get away.
exactly. But same, I'm always looking for like that spark in someone else that they love life, you
Yeah.
know. That was actually one of the most memorable parts. When my dad passed away, we did a celebration of life party for him. And he, it it was not um, very organized. It was more just we had a space, we invited people to come, we had a slideshow and some mementos from his life and all that good stuff. And what happened that we hadn't counted on was that my mom was kind of standing in the center of the room, and basically a receiving line created itself from her out the door. And before we knew it, my dad had not chosen a large enough venue. he,
Oh,
spec- he
wow.
specified where he would like it to happen, and we were like, "Dad, you needed a bigger venue, just so you know." But this line formed, and it by the time we realized, it was out the door of the room, and then out the front door of the building, and like down the sidewalk. It was crazy, and we didn't tell anyone to form a line. It just happened spontaneously. But so then we were like, okay, we need to work the line, because there's all these people
Now
standing
you have
around.
an assignment.
Yeah, right. And there was this woman, I have no idea who she was. I had never met her. I still don't know who she is. And she knew my dad somehow. He was very involved in the community he lived in, and served on a lot of boards and all that good stuff. And I was working the line talking to some people I did know, and she kind of popped over and stepped in and said, "Hey, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I'm not going to be able to stay. And I just wanted to tell you that I loved your dad. He was great." Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Oh, thank you so much," because, of course, I'm just trying to hold it together through this whole long line and talk to people. And she said to me, "He loved life."
Oh,
And I said, "Well, he did, and she was like, "I mean, he really loved it." And I was like, "That's true." Yeah.
that's amazing. Like that's so beautiful. Like I just want to absorb that. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
to love. I would love people to be able to say that about me. And I'm
Right.
not. I don't know if I'm there yet, right?
Yeah.
At all, but
Well, and also, he spent, I don't know, 25 years retired, volunteering in his community. So she was someone who knew him from that phase of life. I think it's also a lot easier to be expressing joy all the time when you're
Well,
retired.
yes, yes. But you said the word season earlier, and I think that's
Hmm.
true. I think we naturally go through different seasons in life.
Hmm.
And some seasons are more joyful than others. But what an amazing example, that
Yes.
your father was able to. I mean, just think of all the people that he touched, that he just left a little joy with.
Yes,
What?
absolutely. And it made me realize, oh, that's what I'm attracted to in other people. You
Mhm.
know, I brought up before, I have a friend and we have very different views, religious, political, everything. And I was always, trying to figure out what do we have in common? And it's this love of life. Like we love to dig in and talk about stuff and think about things. And,
Yeah,
he's a people person also. And so
yeah, yeah,
it is that spark that you see in other people, and it does attract, you know, most people are attracted by that, right? And so then that's how you find yourself in a community sometimes of like-minded folks who feed your soul and vice versa.
yeah. And people who don't fall away, right?
Right. Yeah.
Whether you want them to, you intended them to, it just naturally happens, I think, right? For a lot of
Uh,
reasons, people fall away. But I do find that making a commitment to joy is an exercise that's been well worth it. And what I mean by that is, you know, we've all been through some shitty times, right? And I had
mhm.
a stretch of years that were overwhelming. I just didn't genuinely know if I could handle everything on my own. And just feeling so incredibly broken, and making myself go out in the backyard and lay in the grass and just enjoy the feeling of the grass, right? And just enjoy the sky, just even if it was for 30 seconds, a minute, right?
Yeah.
Just creating a practice of joy. It just helped me so much, and it grew. And we've talked about this, I think, on one of our previous episodes. I think the meaning of life is just to experience life, just to feel alive, to enjoy it. So in many ways, just feeling and expressing that joy, I think, is the meaning of life, and reminding myself, forcing myself to do that. um it's taken years, but I feel like I'm better for it. Like this weekend, these last few days, shit show. I mean, everything that could go wrong at work, at home, with the technology here, just you name it, right? And I'm just like, at some point now, you know what I do? Instead of freaking out and yelling or crying or whatever, I start laughing. I just start laughing. I'm like, okay, what next? Here we go. I'm just singing in the shower. I'm like, all right, everybody hates me. Everybody's mad at me. Whatever. Like, here we go. I'm going to have a good day no matter what?
Well, I don't hate you and I'm not mad at you. So clearly that's untrue. Everyone does not.
Little
But
drama.
yes.
Yeah, dash of joy.
Sometimes we have to indulge our inner drama, it's okay. Yeah, I mean, and I think that this actually leads to uh, something I was thinking about, which is expressing joy as a form of rebellion, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm an Enneagram 8, so I love this like little stick it to 'em spin on
Yes,
expressing joy.
you do. Yes, you do. I love that. Joy as a form of rebellion. That is fantastic.
Yes, as in you can't steal my joy. You can't
Yes.
take it from me. Yeah.
It's so funny, is you can't steal my joy. I love to travel, and the travel group I go with, the name of the company is You Can't Steal My Happy.
Ah.
The name of it is You Can't Steal My Happy. And they do the best trips. But it is kind of an act of rebellion, because if you think about it, what's been one of the biggest status symbols of the last several years? I'm so busy. I'm
Mm.
so busy, right? It's like if people are like, how's it going? Oh my God, I'm so busy. That puts you a leg up over me, that, like that. um
Yeah, busy is the most lauded addiction we have.
isn't that
Yeah.
bananas? Isn't that bananas? But I still struggle with it.
Hmm.
So I'm getting much better, but
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't.
and it is often. feels like something completely out of your control that consumes your time. And so that's where you have to take a hard look at all the factors that go into it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And does it leave room for joy, and how do you carve out room for it? To
Right.
your
And
point, even in a season where everything is dark, how do you commit that you're going to find the space for it?
yeah. And and it is profoundly selfish, but it works. You know, it works. It got me through for sure. Um,
Well,
but
is it selfish?
I think as humans, not that we don't do unselfish things, because I think we do. I think we, but yeah, I do. It makes me feel good.
Hmm. I want to unpack that a little bit because it makes me feel good. It's selfish? No.
Yeah, I mean, because it's a self-centric, is there benefit to those around me? 100%.
Sure.
But like being a martyr and sacrificing myself and doing for my family and doing for work and doing for my, right? There's no joy in that. That is not selfish, right? And it's all, the benefit is all for everybody else. But when I'm putting like joy into my life, I'm doing it because it makes me feel good. It makes me feel alive. It makes me a better person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I don't know. I guess it's just the word selfish, because I think that that is just part of your right, is your intrinsic right is to have moments of joy, you know?
yeah, I mean, I agree with you in that it's definitely, I mean, it's a gift of the spirit. I think it is what we're here to enjoy life. We're not here not to enjoy life. If you think
Hmm.
about all the ways that we don't enjoy life, they're man-made. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, for
They're
sure.
they're
Yes.
made.
Yeah.
So,
The older I get, the more that I'm like, this whole thing is a racket. I'm becoming an old hippie for sure. You know, I'm like, we're all a slave to the man, and this is a racket, and we've all bought into it, and we have to make this money so that we can buy the things from them that constitute a successful life. And, so um, there is an element to all of that. I feel like that is true. At the same time, I've spent my life playing mostly by the rules. So,
well, and you look at people who don't, like, I follow naturalists who don't have jobs, when they just camp everywhere, or their passion is mountain climbing, and okay, I'm going to climb the top 5 peaks in a year, or like things that are just these are extreme examples, but
yeah.
they're following their joy. And people look at them like they're these rebels. They're like these outsiders who something not quite right there, right? And if come across somebody who's, maybe I'll speak for myself, I won't speak for you, who's our age and hasn't run a company or accomplished X, Y, and Z, I'm kind of like, what you been doing? What you been doing? And shame on me, right? If they're like, oh, I just love to golf, so I just work enough to pay for my golf clubs and getting around from course to course. And I have a moment of like, and then I'm like, oh, do you know what I
Then
mean?
you're like, yeah, you're like, wait a second. Yes, yes.
I go from like judging them to judging me in like 30 seconds. That's what, or less than that, right? I'm like,
Yes.
oh wait, I think I'm missing out.
Yeah, that we're all supposed to have ambition to reach some kind of pinnacle of
Yeah,
accomplishment, and that's really should be the primary driver of our lives, right?
yeah,
I was talking to someone I'd worked with before. I don't know, this was a while back, probably a year and a half ago. And he said, yeah, I'm starting to think about what will be my legacy, when we were talking professionally. And um, I thought, man, I've never thought about my legacy. Like, Am I slacking? What is my problem? And I mean, to each their own for sure. But I think legacy. Obviously, you can think of in many different contexts, and I'm sure he does as well in terms of his family and children and all the things. But also, it's a little like how many of us are really going to leave a lasting legacy, and what does that legacy look like? And often it's not professional accomplishment.
Right. Right. Exactly. I think that we are leaving a legacy. It's just, are you conscious about the legacy you're leaving? Right. Yeah. Because every interaction, was it Maya Angelou? It's people don't remember what you said. They remember how you made them feel.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's something that with my kids and everything we've been through, I'm like, okay, my responsibility here is to show them how to have joy, how to be happy despite your circumstances. And, my daughter and I, like a thunderstorm rolled through, and I was out in the backyard in my hammock, which I love, with my dog, and just watched this storm. And I was like, it's going to hail. And so I called her out there and I was like, let's hang out in the hail. And like, it just poured hail on us, but it was small. Occasionally you got smacked by something big, but it was just like, I'm like, that's my legacy. Like, look at the sky. Like, that is what I want them to, not what job or what house or what car or how to keep up or how to judge people, but just embrace those moments of joy. Like that. If that was my legacy, I would be so happy.
Yeah. I love watching a good storm roll in.
And they're the best.
And to be on a porch or somewhere where you can just enjoy it. I don't really like to get pelted by hail, so I'd probably just step under the porch a little bit. But it is fun to dance in the rain. I'm a big fan of dancing in the rain. I've done that on occasion, especially when my son was young. We would go dance in the rain a lot. Aww. So maybe we should revive that. I'm gonna put that on my list.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So how to make it happen more often? Anchor it in purpose or spiritual practice. So you talked about meditation, obviously faith. People who attend church regularly and find that is a place where they can deepen their joy, contemplation, acts of service, all those things can help you anchor your practice. And then, I talked about shared experience, connectedness, whether you experience that, like I experience it in my book club and, different friends that I have. And sometimes when I've been very, very low, I make a conscious point, because I think a lot of us isolate in those circumstances, right?
Yeah.
No one wants to hear about my problems. I'm not fun right now, but then I make a conscious choice to schedule time to see people or catch up with people that I know spark joy in me. And I will show up for them in a way, not that I'm pasting on a happy face, but I will show up for them in a way that I'm not showing up for myself sometimes at that point. And then just being with them gets me to, a little fake it till you make it. But embracing present and ordinary moments. I thought this was interesting. Don't postpone joy.
That hits home. That hits home so much for me. Kind of going back to that conversation we had about, there have been too many people that have, passed away around me. Nobody close to me. Though we did just find out they put my aunt in hospice yesterday, so I'm a little nervous about that. But it's just a reminder that you can't postpone joy. I can't assume that one day when I retire, I'm going to have fun and enjoy my life. You might not even get there, right? You might not get that far. And if today's the only day I have, am I going to let this situation be my emotional, I don't know, legacy? What? But it's so much easier said than done. How many times I have to stop myself. But I think that not postponing joy, because I was serious type A girl. Do you know what I mean? Here's I want this by this and this by, and
I don't think it's 100% was. Because same for me. Same for me. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
We
Well,
still have that side
absolutely.
of us for sure. I always say I'm recovering type A.
Exactly. 100%. And to this day, my kids will catch me. They'll be like, Mom, do we really have to do all this today? And I'm like, okay, I guess we don't. But I'm so much better than I used to be. And I joked before about being, control sober for a while. And it all kind of goes together when, you know, you try and find the joy, it gives you a perspective, and you realize there's just like a cacophony of, um, ideas and consciousness that comes with embracing joy that just amplify each other and build off each other and create momentum off of each other. And if you can just stay on the mat, just stay on the mat with that, it's amazing. I understand why it's a gift. It really is a gift. It's a gift, I wish you know, everyone could take the time for, but sometimes life just stinks. It's hard, it's cruel, it's unfair, and it makes no sense. And that's why I think we talk about Sacredish. It's like we're trying, we're striving, we're trying to grow in our consciousness, but never 100% there. Never 100%
There
there.
is no perfection here for sure.
No.
And as we say, I think every episode, we are not the experts.
Exactly.
We're
We're
just,
talking about, yeah, people always ask me like, why do you like to go to church? I'm like, because I need help. It's not because I think I'm better. I meditate because I need help. I have these conversations because I need help. I want to be better.
yeah. If anyone tells me they've figured out anything, if they know the score on pretty much anything, I'm automatically suspicious.
That's 100% right. Those who know don't know, and those who know they don't know, they know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Curiosity, I love. Um, you know, bulletproof assurance or assuredness, I'm always skeptical of. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
uh, so we talked about, joy can coexist with sorrow. And, you know, I have I was talking to someone the other day and they said, oh, the state of the world, I can't even laugh anymore. And I was like, don't let them take your laughter.
That's
They
right.
don't deserve it.
That's right. You got to hold on to it. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's an
exactly.
act of rebellion, like you said. And more than that, it's really the right thing to do.
Yeah, exactly.
To do.
Well, and if I think at some point it'd be, my dream is that we'll interview a neurologist at some point because I love all of it because there is a ton around the parts of the brain that benefit from joy and from happiness and how it promotes neuroplasticity and all this great stuff. So, um,
Taming the amygdala is the trick, right? That's your
mhm.
fight or flight, your fear center. If I'm getting that right. But yeah, just not letting those parts of your brain drive.
Right. Yeah. And, um, joy opens the door to me. Joy opens the door to new experiences in terms of you allow yourself just some space to breathe and feel this positivity coursing through you. And it's contagious for yourself, not just for other people. It can change the way you look at your options that you have in life to me,
Mm-hmm.
and how you know, factor it into decision making and all those good things. And then, there are the health benefits. Like, um, actually, we talked about this. Here I am saying, okay, well, I stopped drinking 7 years ago, drinking alcohol 7 years ago. I have never been a smoker. I, you know, I could work out more. I could do, I'm not perfect, but I try to do things that are good for my health. And then, you know, I read an article and it states something I've seen before, but it just hits home that, constant stress is like smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. And I'm like, oh, okay. So to your point of that fight or flight, living in that place and jacking up your cortisol levels day in, day out, has very clear ramifications that have been proven study after study, whether it's your heart, it's your mental resilience, It's your immune system. Women especially, much higher likelihood to have, immune disease or dysfunction. And then it can also, help with your social bonding, which is like a underlying piece of the
Issue.
puzzle for all of that, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, in part and parcel of embracing the joy where it takes you is it forces you to trust,
Mm-hmm.
and part of Buddha study and is, you can only really control your actions. You can't control the outcome. You got to let go of the outcome,
Mm-hmm.
right? That you're not in control of all of this. And I find it sometimes terrifying, sometimes liberating to trust, to be like, okay, I'm going to lean into this because this feels really good. I'm going to trust that the fact that joy is sitting right over there, I'm going to trust that that's where I'm supposed to go. And then everything's going to work out because there is risk in the way the world is built. And I'm always like, am I on the path of love or am I on the path of fear? And sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm so far down the fear path. I don't even know which way's out at this point, but so it's complicated, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And there's a lot that if you really lean into, Joseph Campbell, follow your bliss, if you really lean into the joy, how much you have to let go, how much you have to trust and let go and be comfortable in the gap, like in the gap, right? And that can be a scary place. There's many a times that I get there and I turn around and I hightail it back because I'm like, nope. I think I know how to manage this over here. I know how to control this over here. I have no idea
Yeah.
what would happen next if I really did X, Y, Z.
Yeah, there are a lot of the biggest reason people don't do it is because it's deeply uncomfortable. It's really not. And
Okay.
you have this illusion of a successful blueprint on the other side, right? Like, oh, if I just follow these rules, if I just do this, if I take this path, this
Yep.
is this is the blueprint of that'll get me where I need to go. And
Yeah.
then there are so many unknowns, so I just went through this exercise of like financial and retirement planning, and I've been thinking deeply about all of that and looking at, scenarios and, all kinds of stuff. And it's like, I could die tomorrow or I could live to be 94 years old. And I have no idea. So, what a Herculean task to plan for all eventualities, like you're
Yeah.
never going to hit it just right.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah,
it's overwhelming. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it's almost paralyzing, you
it
know.
is.
It's almost paralyzing. I tease my kids when I finally die at 104, all everybody's going to say is, well, it's about time. She wrung every drop out she could. It's about time, right?
My
So,
God, we thought she'd never go. No, the
exactly.
it,
Finally.
I love that we have such different perspectives because when my financial planner was like, "Well, let's plan for 94," I was like, "No, that sounds exhausting. I'm not still around at 94."
It sounds exhausting. I told you this before, we may have talked about it, but I have spent a lot of time in fear. And it's ironic to me, or I don't know if it's ironic to me, maybe it's my soul calling to me, but I follow people who live in joy. I've been in love with Thoreau since I was 8. Do you know what I mean? Like anyone who's doing something off the beaten path or thinking about things differently or doing things differently and basically rebelling against the norms of society, I love, I crave, I read it, but then I go live this life over here based on the blueprint of what I think I'm supposed to do. And what the fuck? Like what?
Why do I do that?
What is it? Am I just the biggest chicken ever? Or, you know, I, I'm kind of getting to the point, I've had a lot, we all do. You have kids, I have kids. I'm almost solely responsible for them, right? And that's a lot of pressure. And I'm kind of getting to the point where, all right, you guys are old enough. Like I feel this little rumbling of like, okay, I've done my part. I sleep like a baby every night,
Mm-hmm.
no guilty conscience on any front. but I think it's time. I think it's
Yeah.
time. That is like the crossroads that I think I'm at right now, right? Where I'm just like,
Hmm.
okay, I think I could step off and feel like I did right by everyone I was supposed to do right by, you know?
Yeah.
And but what do I want? What do I really want? What do I, you
Hmm.
know? Okay, what would that look like? Could I really live with it if I didn't have a big title? You know, like, am I that superficial? Am I not? Like, so full term, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just,
No.
I'm just right there thinking, oh, I'd love to go work at a horse sanctuary. I would let, like, just give me a little cabin as long as I can bring my dog, you know? And I
Yeah.
don't know. So lots of things going through my brain right now. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that, I had a death grip on all of that for many years, like how I was perceived, how my career was perceived. And I gradually started to loosen that death grip and pry my fingers off of it. But I would say that, the thing that I am still wrestling with a lot is, it has afforded me comfort. And I would say I'm addicted to comfort now. And so, discomfort, to purposely put myself in discomfort, whether it's physical, learning something new, being, really stretching myself. Like, I've stretched myself in a very specific way for so long that it's, I haven't challenged myself in a lot of other areas. And a lot of the things that I'm drawn to or interested in would challenge me in those areas. Like, am I willing to give up, to your point, go work on a horse farm? Am I willing to give up my curated, safe little house that I've put together? Am I, these are the things that you have to think of. And that's where, when I talk to my son, I'm like, don't get too comfortable too fast, because
Good.
when you're young, it's easier to
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
um, trade some of that for
Yeah.
experiences. And once you get settled in comfort, it's hard to convince yourself to leave it.
Yeah. No, that's very wise. Yeah. I jumped on the blueprint early, you know.
Hmm.
I jumped on.
Most of us did, because we were sold, you
Yeah.
know. I
Yeah.
mean, growing up, I was pretty much taught, the way that the choices we've made are the choices you should make,
Mhm.
and this is like the key to, this is like the blueprint, this is how you should conduct your life, and anything else is risky or scary or,
Yeah, or just not wise. Why would you even
right,
consider such a
exactly,
thing?
unheard of. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And I look back and I've always had little things on the fringe that I did that
Hmm.
sort of filled my soul and made me feel like myself. And then I would always talk about, especially in a work situation, I just turn it on. It's just a personality. It's a role that I play. And that sort of schizophrenia, I'm like, when I'm doing things, for a while teaching spirituality, like even in the setting that it was, I was in my zone. Like everything that I had been given was coming together. And that was such a great spot. And I wasn't turning anything on. That was as authentic as it gets for me, you know?
Right. Well, and I think too, you brought up a good point, which is a lot of women live their lives in service of others.
Mhm.
So, all the studies have shown, men who are married live longer, women who are married live not as long as women who are not married. Same with children, right? Because all of the energy you would pour into finding joy and living your life, it's easy to pour it into those other people,
Yeah. They
and
don't,
not that that isn't a great, not that you shouldn't,
exactly.
right?
No judgment. No judgment.
Yeah.
Because I did it and I'm still
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah.
But okay, so you brought me to something else, which I think is topical and probably influencing me way more than you, which is menopause.
Oh,
And
yeah.
can I just tell you, menopause rocks. So for anybody who is like, not or nervous or worried about getting there, let me tell you, wish I'd gotten here a long time ago because I think in many ways with the hormone replacement therapy and the things that I'm doing with my functional doctor, I feel more like myself than I ever have. And I think it's a convergence of a lot of things. My kids being more, being older, more independent and capable, and just seeing them turn into these great people, and kind of doing everything I think in my career I really wanted to do. Like, I don't necessarily think there's another mountain that I haven't climbed. It would just be another mountain like mountains I've already been on,
Mhm.
and then wanting more joy, like just kind of this, convergence of a lot of different things, of which I do think menopause is one of them. I find myself saying a whole lot more these days, that sounds like a you problem, not a me problem. You know what I mean? That sounds like something that I think you could handle, and good
The
luck with
age at which the bullshit falls away a little bit, maybe. I don't know. Yes. Yes. It is a very particular season. I'm not quite as rosy on it as you are. Probably because, I did HRT for a few years, and
yeah, your
I
situation.
can't anymore.
Yeah.
So, it is, yeah, if you can do it, do it. But, for sure, much like I encourage people to drink, if you can drink, drink.
Go right ahead.
Go for it.
Go for
But,
it. That's
but
funny.
I do agree. Yeah, I agree. One way that it's been really helpful for me is, not having as much of a strong biological drive to want to, and because I'm heterosexual, stubbornly heterosexual, damn it, not seeking that, and having it occupy so much of my headspace has
Yeah.
been really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are a lot of benefits to it for sure. For sure. And
Yeah.
I think we're a generation of women, like, you see so many, I mean, I get hit with an insane number of ads for menopause related products on Instagram or whatever. The retargeting is strong. The algorithm has found me. But, wow, that whole industry is exists because our generation got to this point in life. And our generation has been afforded more economic power, more political power. I mean, is it enough? Absolutely not. But we've had more than any previous generation. And so, I mean, that's the whole reason that that it exists, because we're in the middle of it now, and we're finding, like, here, how do we navigate it together? Let's share our information. And then also, some people are like, "Look, there's a lot of money to be made here because we have disposable income and we're looking for solutions." So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Boomers, get out of the way. It's all about us. Yeah, I
Yes.
just have this vision of the future, and like, they say a lot of women don't want to get married. They like the peace. They like not having to take care, like you get to a certain point and you're kind of over it. And
Mhm.
that is a growing trend. And I just imagine this future where we're all on this great commune and we got it going on, and we got and the men are just like, can we please come in? Can we
Well,
please? I'm hungry. I
well, that's why they're so afraid of us, Susan, but that's a whole other topic.
I joke. I
They
joke.
know where they would be without us. That's the problem.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's, again, another season, right?
Yes. Yes, for sure. But, I think, to kind of come full circle on it, um, these opportunities, practices, whatever, to find joy no matter what the season is. Because, there's life stage seasons, but then we all just have years that hit us like a hurricane. And, I love one of the questions is a good conversation starter if you want to go really deep, really fast with someone, is like, what year was your bad year? And I'm like, mine was 2013. And like, people know off the top of their head, oh, this was my worst year. This was my bad year,
Yeah.
because, circumstances can pile up. But in the middle of it, whether it's, a divorce or a death, you're going through grief, whatever it is, or it's just a life stage, how do you create the space and find and notice the joy that's in your life, and, cultivate it?
In fact, I would be maybe even a little bit more adamant, which is make joy a practice. Make it's like brushing your teeth, people who exercise, people, whatever, make joy a practice, and you won't regret it. You won't regret it. It'll change so many things. So
I love it. I think that's where we should end.
okay, let's call it a wrap. All right. Well, thank you for the great conversation.
As always.
All right. We'll go spread some joy today.
Sounds
All right.
good.
I'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.